Top 10 Scariest Horror Movies Ever. If you were poking around RT a week and a half or so ago, you might have come across a little poll we were taking on the site to try and determine the scariest movie ever. Based on other lists and suggestions from the RT staff, we pulled together 40 of the scariest movies ever made and asked you to vote for the one that terrified you the most. Number 10. It, 2017. The fear of clowns is a very real thing, even if it's become so commonplace to announce it that it feels disingenuous. If you needed any further evidence, we direct you to the box office haul of 2017's IT, based on the Stephen King novel of the same name, which went on to beat The Exorcist's 44-year record as the highest-grossing horror film ever. Oh, and of course, its 10th place finish on this list. Andy Muschietti's big-budget adaptation drew on nostalgia to tell its story of children scarred by trauma, while Bill Skarsgård's take on Pennywise the evil, shape-shifting clown was bizarre and unsettling in all the right ways. Number 9. Insidious, 2010. James Wan has already appeared higher on this list, but before he and Patrick Wilson made The Conjuring, they worked together on this supernatural thriller about a young boy who falls into a coma and begins to channel a malevolent spirit. The bare bones of the story weren't the most groundbreaking, but frequent Wan collaborator Lee Whannell infused it with a compelling enough mythology that it spawned 4 more installments. Number 8. Sinister, 2012. For those who didn't read the scientific study mentioned at the top, we've finally come to the film it crowned the scariest. Before he joined the MCU with 2016's Doctor Strange, director Scott Derrickson had racked up a few horror films, a couple of which earned cult followings. One of them was this small-scale haunted house possession story about a true crime writer, Ethan Hawke, who moves his wife and kids into a house where a family was murdered, only to discover the new place might already have a rather evil tenant. Number 7. Halloween, 1978. Coming in at the 7th spot on our list is the film that introduced the world to all-time scream queen Jamie Lee Curtis and put John Carpenter on the map. Halloween is frequently cited as one of the earliest examples of the slasher genre as we know it today, and while it may not feature the same kind of realistic gore we've come to expect of films in that category, it packs a lot of tension and some inventive thrills in a relatively small-scale package. Number 6. The Ring, 2002. It's always a tricky proposition to take something that works well for one culture and try to translate that formula successfully for another, but Gore Verbinski managed that with The Ring. A remake of Japanese director Hideo Nakata's acclaimed thriller about a cursed videotape, Verbinski's take kept the original film's striking visual imagery, the ghost of a young girl in a white dress with long black hair covering her face, and found that it scared the hell out of audiences no matter where they were from. Number 5. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. While the top 4 movies on this list collectively garnered 42% of the total votes counted, they were followed by 6 films that all earned around 3% of the vote each. In other words, these last 6 films were separated by no more than 60 votes. The first of them is this low-budget slasher directed and co-written by Tobe Hooper, very loosely inspired by the crimes of Ed Gein. Texas Chainsaw's grimy aesthetic helped lend it an air of authenticity, which made it all the more frightening. This could actually happen, you guys. And the massive, menacing presence of Gunnar Hansen's Leatherface paved the way for other brutes like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. Number 4. The Shining, 1980. Literally dozens of Stephen King's novels and stories have been adapted for the big screen, and several of those films are considered classics today, like Carrie, Misery, and Pet Sematary, and that doesn't even account for non-horror stuff like The Shawshank Redemption and Stand By Me. But the mother of them all is easily Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining. Number 3. The Conjuring, 2013. James Wan has staked out a place among the modern masters of horror, directing films like Saw, Dead Silence, Insidious, and this inspired by true events chiller based on the experiences of real-life paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens, best known for their work on the strange case that inspired the Amityville horror movies, which played a part in The Conjuring 2, were portrayed by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, who grounded the effective jump scares and freak-out moments with a believable world weariness. Number 2. Hereditary, 2018. Writer-director Ari Aster made a huge splash with his feature directorial debut, a dark family drama about the nature of grief couched within a supernatural horror film. Toni Collette earned a spot in the pantheon of great Oscar snubs with her slowly ratcheted up to 11 performance as bedeviled Mother Annie, but the movie's biggest shock came courtesy of... well, we won't spoil that here. Number 1. The Exorcist, 1973. You may not agree that The Exorcist is the scariest movie ever, but it probably also isn't much of a surprise to see it at the top of our list, with a whopping 19% of all the votes cast. William Friedkin's adaptation of the eponymous novel about a demon-possessed child and the attempts to banish said demon became the highest-grossing R-rated horror film ever and the first to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. It earned 9 other nominations and took home 2 trophies.